let's go to DeFi. Everybody's talking about DeFi in the wake of all these CeFi collapses. DeFi maybe stands to benefit from some of the misdeeds that some centralized crypto companies have been caught doing. That all sort of is undergirded by the process of governance, which is sort of a boring long word, but when you really look into it, this is what these human coordination mechanisms known as DAOs are really all about, right? How do you collectivize action online? How do you make it so that stakeholders can express themselves in ways that are in accordance with maybe their investment in the project, right? So Uniswap, which is a big DeFi exchange, is looking to make DAO governance a bit more easy, right? They're trying to make the process of voting on protocol changes a bit less frictionful. And I think we've seen to date that voter engagement and participation in some of these votes has been rather low because of some of those obstacles. I'm going to toss this to Jen for her thoughts. Uniswap, obviously big time DeFi flag bearer. Interesting to see that they're trying to make the governance process a bit easier with a few less burdensome steps along the way. What's your takeaway on this one about Uniswap?
Yeah, I don't think that there is a DAO out there that has figured out governance yet. I think when we get into the next bull cycle, we're going to see a lot of different tools that are being developed now come to life that are going to help make the governance process a little bit easier. But I think what they're doing is smart. So they're removing the first off-chain snapshot vote. Previously, they had two, and they're saying this is the user experience is kind of weird here. So the first thing that they're going to allow the community to do is comment on the proposal and then change this to just one vote. And then I think the second thing that's going to happen in this governance change is that they are going to make the requirements to pass a proposal, I think 10 million uni when it was previously 5. So that's going to be more representative of the community. I think this is smart. I think it is one step in the right direction. When we look at DAOs, there are so many issues, but the first thing that a DAO needs is a community, and you need that community to be engaged. I think that a lot of the DAOs out there have figured that out. And so now we're moving on to governance. How can we incentivize communities to actually participate in these proposals, to actually run these organizations? Because right now they are very much like hierarchical organizations and typical companies where there's like a handful of people who are making decisions. So I think these are two steps in the right direction, but we can expect to see a lot of changes with governance, I think, over the next few years. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said and add some context to the whole story as well. DAOs are really messy and they are not fixed yet. Even the most important, most famous DAO was a catastrophe itself. And in many ways, it's only gotten slightly better, a little bit less of loss of funds, but definitely like some more issues on the governance sides to be figured out. For Uniswap, it has one of the largest ecosystems out there. A lot of people use Uniswap, a lot of people plug into the Uniswap platform. So its DAO is necessarily very important. Like, how do you want to govern this very large decentralized exchange? People have turned to the Uni token, which allows you to cast votes on behalf of any code changes you want to Uni. But that hasn't quite been enough. And the first structure for Uniswap for its DAO was pretty bad. A lot of critiques against it, a lot of critiques against the Uniswap Labs team for how they built it, against Paradigm for being involved with it, for any sort of VC holder who had like an allocation of Uni. Basically, people thought it was unfair how it was designed. Uniswap Foundation came in earlier this year with a goal of fixing a lot of these things. And this seems to be one of the first steps along that road to fix how the DAO works for Uniswap. Hopefully, this is something that does address the problems, because these problems are necessarily hard to figure out in the first place, let alone implement a change toward. But this one does look pretty promising, right? The ability to vote off-chain and then later make some decisions on-chain using Uni. Seems to be there's like a little bit more fair allocations in terms of voting, because the economic weighting here does really matter a lot, right? So if you have a huge person with a lot of Uni token, they can just sway a vote however they want, and all of a sudden they get to benefit from it. If the average Uniswap voter doesn't have a lot of Uni, but still using the platform, well, we like to think that they have an ability to make a decision for the Uniswap community that benefits others. And that's not always the case. It's hard to make these things work, but this seems to be a step in the right direction. Zach, I'll boot it back over to you.
Yeah, I think that was sort of that bigger picture, right? Sort of making DAOs not, was it plutocracy? Was that where, like, you know, the rich have oversized like sway on what happens. The flip side of that coin is that like, you gotta be Sybil resistant too, right? You can't just be one person who's spinning up a ton of accounts pseudonymously and casting votes to manipulate the system in that way, right? So there's definitely all these trade-offs, I think, when it comes down to making sure that, the voice of the people is represented accurately. Crypto loves skin in the game as sort of a framework for understanding who gets to vote on the future of these protocols. So finding a way for me to like make like skin in the game work with something that's more egalitarian in nature. So it's not just giant bag holders who are dictating how these things work and who stands to benefit with any particular protocol changes. I think that's like a really important thing that's going to be hopefully unfolding over the next few years in the DeFi space as the people who are here to stay can hopefully fine tune it such that when people come in to use it, say a few years from now, those people who are new to these systems will also have the ability to participate in what should be a more user-owned internet, right? That's the whole idea behind Web3, user-owned internet, something that I think a lot of people have been championing over these past few years. But anyway, we'll see. This is a step in the right direction, a small step, but maybe some of these bigger changes will also come soon.